Hey, what's up guys? So while you're watching this video of me just scrolling through these documents, there's about 5 or 6 of them going back from 2001 to 2006. These are all the tax forms from the US government. I believe it's from the Congress to the Falun Gong. So this is pretty crazy. It's pretty revealing, just direct primary evidence of the US government funding this Chinese cult. So before I get into the document, well, I'm not really going to get into it. I'm just going to let you look at it and make your own decision. But I'll just share a couple anecdotes of me growing up and my experiences with the Falun Gong. Even though it's such a obscure, weird organization, I had so many experiences with it growing up in Toronto, Canada, which is just impressive when you think about it. Like the fact that this propaganda can reach everybody, even a boy growing up in Toronto, Canada, it reached me. And I'm sure everyone listening to this has had some experience with the Falun Gong as well. So I think for me, one of the most notable experiences was every time I went to the Chinese consulate for whatever reason, like getting a visa to go there, or I mean, there's only a few times I've ever had to go to the Chinese consulate in my life, probably like 5 or 6 times. And what I realized or what I noticed was that there's always a small group of people just standing there just ready to tell you about how the Chinese government is harvesting their organs. And yeah, without any doubt, you could always be sure there would be a group of people proclaiming that the Chinese government is doing this evil act. And the displays they use are actually quite huge. I remember the displays they have are like the size of a truck. So I mean, this is something, growing up in Toronto, Canada, this is something that just you can never forget, because in Canada, information like that is usually so suppressed and so censored, you never get to learn about horrific things that Western governments are doing, right? Like there would never be a billboard or a truck-sized bulletin showing what we're doing to our native population, our indigenous people. You would never see that. You would never see how, indigenous women are being murdered and raped right across the country, which was happening at that time. Indigenous women were disappearing. Or you wouldn't see the effects of the US invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, which Canada did support, right? You wouldn't see huge billboards showing the effects of drone attacks, blowing people to bits, or raiding people's homes, and then which ends with an execution by a Western military unit on innocent civilians, right? Like that, you would never see that stuff. You would never see such gruesome reality. So growing up in Canada, in Toronto, seeing such gruesome reality, organ harvesting of these Falun Gong members, it's so shocking to the senses, and it's so shocking to your just worldview, because you're just so sheltered in the West. You don't see any of this stuff. You only see stuff on TV, which is not real. You know it's not real. But real news about war or atrocities, you don't really get to see, except for maybe the Holocaust, right? You definitely get to, see things about the Holocaust, what Nazi Germans did to the Jews. So that's my experience. And growing up, I guess I always wondered, like, who were funding them? Like who was paying these people to stand there every single day? Every time I went to the Chinese government embassy, there were always people stationed there handing out pamphlets and again, standing next to these huge truck-sized billboards of showing organ harvesting. So, I don't know. I can't say for a fact if it's true or not true. I mean, I obviously have my doubts, because this cult, Falun Gong, lies a lot. But one thing for sure is I always wondered where the money came from, right? Follow the money. Like, who is paying these people? And who's setting up these very sophisticated information campaigns? Well, now we know. 20 years later, and now I know. Now I see the documents. $7.7 million over 5 years. And these tax forms only go up to 2006. So if we went all the way up to 2021, I'm sure the amount the US government has given to Falun Gong is going to be up to the $40 million range. That's not including the huge campus or the huge area that the US government has given to the Falun Gong in New York and the Catskills, where they've built this new Tang architecture and residence for people to go and practice. So, I mean, including with that, I mean, that area is probably itself worth 50, $100 million, right, for that huge area of land with all of its construction. So the amount of money giving to this group is unprecedented, really. Can you think of any other religious group or cult that's been funded this well? I can't think of any. And so that leads me to a logical question here. While you're looking through the documents, while you're scrolling through, the US government says that it's funding this organization because of human rights. You know, it wants to give money to the Falun Gong so that it can raise awareness about Chinese persecution against them. Well, that could be true, right? I mean, there's no evidence either way. So, you know, you could say it's true or not true. No one's going to win that argument. There's no evidence. Okay. There's been no concrete evidence of organ harvesting of prisoners. But here's the really interesting part. If the US government cared so much about cults and religious groups being persecuted, then you would see so many other religious groups having huge facilities being built for them, like the Falun Gong, and being given tens of millions of dollars. But that's not happening, right? Wouldn't the same thing be happening for Muslims that are being persecuted in Palestine? Or Muslims being persecuted, I heard, in Myanmar? Or other groups being persecuted around the world? You know, I don't know, South America, Europe. There are religious persecutions happening all over the place. Yet we're not seeing this kind of support. So while we could believe the US narrative, the US government narrative, that they're just trying to defend human rights and trying to raise awareness of atrocities committed by the Chinese government, it's hard to believe that when they're only funding and giving so much support to groups that hate China or groups that hate the Chinese government. Right? I mean, think about the people that are being persecuted in Saudi Arabia, right? There's lots and lots of people that are being stoned to death because of very strict Islamic laws. And, you know, lots of atrocities are happening all over the place. So I think that's a really important logical question to ask. Is it the US government that's correct, or is it the Chinese government that's correct? And they outlawed this cult because it is a cult. Cults are just outlawed in general in China. There's a lot of cults, and they're not permitted because they blow up in a flash, they fizzle out, and all that comes out of it is a lot of people losing their wealth, people committing suicide, people doing stupid things and hurting themselves, and it just causes a lot of social unrest and a lot of damage. And in a country the size of China, 1.4 billion people, you really don't want to have dozens of cults flourishing with tens of millions of people all giving up their livelihoods to this one charismatic leader that says he's God. And that's what Li Hongzhi says. He proclaims that he's God. So you can agree with the US government side, or you can agree with the Chinese side. Who knows? I, for one, cannot make a decision. I mean, I could talk to people in China and I can hear their stories. And I have heard some really, really weird stories about the Falun Gong. So I'm tending to lean towards the Chinese government narrative that it was just a very problematic cult, which it is. I mean, any new religion is known as a cult. That's what it literally means. Any new religion just springing up out of nowhere, that's literally what a cult is. Religions are things that have been established for hundreds, if not thousands of years, so everyone knows that they're quite safe and they're not going to lead to sudden suicides or sudden giving up of wealth.